Alright, it's still pre-dawn here. It's -8, snowing gently, a little bit of a breeze, and I'm outside working on my snow defenses with my zombie apocalypse approved snow moving equipment. I'm thinking to myself, I've never seen a movie with zombies in it and belt buckle deep snow. Wonder why that is. Now, if that were the case, you'd be having a sidearm with you, and you'd have to have special considerations on how to care for that particular piece of equipment under these conditions. We'll talk about that today. Okay, so I'm finally finished with my Canadian Gladiator fitness session outside. I'm going to take some time and talk about the realities of having a sidearm or a firearm on you at all times, kind of like Army life. You know, as a young soldier, issued a rifle in the early days, and when we did winter operations, basically the concept was that once you were outside, deployed, living under canvas, Arctic tent or whatever, your rifle never went into a warm area until such time as you could take it and tear it down and clean it. The reason being is if you went from -20 outside into, say, your Arctic tent, which is heated with a Coleman stove and a Coleman lantern and 8 or 10 warm bodies inside. It's a humid environment. If you took your firearm in there, it would sweat. It would instantly get condensation on it because it's a cold piece of metal. And then were you to go back outside into the freezing cold at -20, it would basically instantly freeze. So in the case of a rifle as a young soldier in winter operations, once it was outside, until we were back into a warm structure for a period of time, it wouldn't go back inside, any place where it would be warm and damp. Now, to be honest with you, I don't ever remember seeing any officers unholster their Browning high-power pistol and stick it in their rucksack if they were coming into our tent to give us an O-group. And back then, those were the people who had sidearms. Every soldier had a rifle, but officers and senior NCOs, they were issued sidearms. And we'll talk about the purpose of that on another video. But in the case of this one, I want to talk to you briefly about what if the zombie apocalypse came and you were carrying a sidearm with you through your daily routine, day in, day out. Well, it's not like you're going to go outside like I did this morning at -8 and do whatever task it is, feed the chickens with your sidearm on, and then leave it out there for the rest of the day. You're not going to do that. You're going to keep it on your person. There is a way to deal with it, best case scenario, in which case that's what we'll talk about briefly. Like any other firearm, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go through them, show you that. You're going to make sure it's unloaded before you start doing anything with your firearm in terms of cleaning and maintenance and preparation for use. So we start with a single action. It's simple. Open the loading gate, spin the cylinders. If they don't spin, put the hammer in the half-cock position, then they'll spin. All 6 chambers are empty. That's pretty straightforward. In the case of a double action, simple push-pull on the cylinder latch release. You can see the cylinder. You don't have to spin it. I can see all the holes. There's nothing in it. You can see right through them. Standard semi-automatic. Remember, first thing to do always, okay, don't worry about the safety initially. Just keep your finger off the trigger. Remove the magazine. When you do that, look. If there's no ammunition in it, that's a good start. And, of course, you want to be able to look. You're going to cycle the action, look in the chamber, look in through the body, no ammunition in there, and then it's unloaded. Okay? You can do it 3 times if you want, just to be sure. I'm that person. I look for the gold. There's no gold there. There's no gold there. There's no gold there. I'm confident that it is unloaded. Now, I could lock the slide open if I could reach the slide lock. If not, if the magazine is empty, okay? If it's not, empty the magazine. If the magazine is empty, I can use the magazine to lock the slide open, then simply remove the magazine again. I know that firearm is empty. Polymer frame guns, a little bit different story when it comes to maintenance, but same deal. If there's a magazine in it, in this case there isn't, you're going to open the slide, you're going to look, anything in the chamber, nothing in the mag well. In the case of this one, I can actually reach the slide lock and I can manipulate it and lock the slide open. There. All those guns are unloaded. That's a given. Now let's talk about how you treat different types of metals and different types of firearms. In the sense of, if I'm doing winter operations, the first thing that the Army does if we're going to send guys to the North Country for any period of time is we are going to clean the firearms and then we're going to degrease them. Yeah, there's a whole process through it, and it's done in bulk before it's sent back out to the troops. For you, the average person who's going to survive the zombie apocalypse, what are you going to do to degrease it? Well, you have to know how to take it apart, at least do what we call field stripping. In the case of my single action revolver, that's pretty simple. I simply pull out the axis pin, drop the cylinder out, okay? And that's as far as I need to go, and I don't need special tools for that. I can work with it from there, okay? In the double action revolver, most of the time I'm going to need some tools, usually a screwdriver to remove the retaining screw on the crane axle to get the cylinder itself and the crane off. You may not need to go that far. In a case of wood grips, again, a screwdriver on either one of those will take them off. On a standard semi-automatic, so the onus is on you to have the knowledge, either by reading the user manual that you got with it when you got it, or YouTube University. There's lots of people who can show you how to do it. Understanding how to dismantle your semi-automatic firearm is something that is up to you and you alone. Okay, that's what that's about. That's all on you. You have to know how to do that. Okay, that's not something that I'm going to teach you step by step. It's up to you to understand completely how to break it down to the level what we call field stripping, and just like in the Army. And that's just one particular firearm. In the case of your polymer frame guns, each gun is a little bit different. I can see that lever down in there and pull that up. And push it down. Okay. All things considered, doing this just by memory alone, I need something in there. So we could probably use something as simple as a pencil just to push that lever down. Don't use anything that you can break off in the gun. Push that lever down. That unlocks that slide. And I can just leave it in that place. Turn this down and then drop that off. And then this comes out and the barrel comes out. Pretty rudimentary steps for the average firearm, the average handgun, pretty rudimentary steps, and that's pretty good. I just do those by memory. If you don't know them that well, you're going to have your user manual or your notes or your YouTube video running, and you're going to follow that process. That's the basics where I'd be. Now, if I'm gonna prep it for the oncoming winter, I'm gonna degrease it as much as possible. What can I use? Well, isopropyl alcohol. It's available in Walmart and every other drugstore. It's inexpensive. Like this bottle is $2.99. It's 99% alcohol. It's pretty good at removing all the oils and greases that are on the gun. Use some Q-tips and maybe even use some canned compressed air. Don't get into high pressure compressors or anything like that, because you can inadvertently cause complications if you're using high pressure air pressure to blow your guns out. But basically you want to remove all the oil off the main surfaces, because any oil that's not prepped for low temperature is going to congeal in the really cold weather, and it's going to cause parts to stick in place. Now, once you've had the time to degrease it to the best of your abilities, then you're going to look to treat it with a low temperature water displacing lubricant, ideally. In the Army, we used a product called VVL 800 or Castrol Braco 300, I think is the other one. But then, you know what? It was paid for by someone else. It's pretty expensive stuff, and you probably can't get it. In my day and age, to be honest with you, whatever you have handy or available that's lightweight and hopefully water displacing will be fine. But if not, a standard CLP used sparingly on friction surfaces, and that's what you're going to do to get through the winter. Ideally, keep the gun dry. Yes, you're going to get condensation on it, Yes, you're going to wipe it off every time it gets a little bit damp. You're going to try and keep it as dry as possible, and just know that if it gets wet, you're going to wipe the water off. Yeah, okay, some of the parts may show a little bit of rust by the time the sun comes out again in April and temperature's warmer, but that's life with a firearm 24/7. Things that you want to know is, of course, stainless steel is rust resistant. It is not rust proof. And there are springs and other pins in the gun that may be just regular carbon steel that sooner or later a gunsmith or yourself through YouTube University are going to take it apart and clean those springs. You ever wonder how 1873 Colt Peacemakers made in 1873 still function to this day, well over 150 years later, right? And nobody's ever taken them apart, and it's because they were cared for in the simplest of ways. Don't make it any more difficult than it has to be. Understand that gun blue, okay? Bluing on the surface of a gun, this is controlled rusting is what we called it as a technician. Bluing creates a surface that oil will adhere to. Bluing does not stop the gun from rusting. Again, you're going to have to take care of that by applying a suitable over lubricant if it's going to be exposed in, warmer, damp climates. In the winter months, you're just going to worry about keeping it dry and keeping it as oil-free as possible to make sure nothing gets gummed up and it's going to work when you need it. Baked on enamel finishes or Cerakote, okay, you don't need to oil that surface, okay? That surface does not rust and the metal that underneath is protected, but there may be places that you need to put a little lubricant, okay? Simply because it's metal on metal contact with slide rails and frame rails, and a little bit of lubricant to ease the friction there is probably not a bad thing as long as it's a lightweight, low temperature, low viscosity oil, okay? Polymer frames, all plastic. Yeah, but there are some components in here that you're going to have to keep dry because those little springs are regular carbon steel or high carbon steel, and if they get wet and left alone, they will rust and degrade. And yes, every now and then it should be taken apart and thoroughly cleaned, as we call tear it down to the bones. If you need to go to a gunsmith to do that during the zombie apocalypse, okay, good luck finding one. If you just generally treat them well, keep them dry and lightly lubricated, they're going to last for decades, right? And that's the basic concept of caring for your firearm in the day-to-day use, just like a soldier would, right? We are not going to drag them in and out. As a soldier, we didn't drag them in and out of a warm building from minus 25 to plus 22 to minus 15 to plus 22. That's just a recipe for disaster. But if that were the circumstances, as a sidearm, you would put extra care and attention into it, keeping it as dry as possible in between, trying not to let it cycle through really low temperatures and really warm temperatures, because that's how the condensation is created. In a nutshell, so what are you going to need? You're not going to need a whole lot. You're going to need some. You can use toilet paper for all we care, and it's not like you're going to be running out and buying brand new swabs in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. However, it's not the zombie apocalypse, so a caliber specific cleaning kit, one that fits in your pack like this. I bought this at Princess Auto the other day. I think it was like $9 on sale. It covers everything from 22 to 45. It has pull cables. That's that steel wire rope that's twisted and braided. I like the steel wire rope ones, not the string ones. But for $14, it'll do every gun on this table well enough to keep it running through the worst zombie apocalypse. This is an old school one. This is Otis or Uncle Mike's. Again, it's a universal kit. Same thing. It has the steel wire ropes in it, which I really prefer over the string versions. Good luck breaking them. If you do get a patch or a piece of cloth stuck in there, it's always going to pull through. There's like a 750-pound breaking strength on these, so if you get it stuck, you can get your really chubby friend Bubba, who weighs 365, to stand on it, and it'll pull it on through. Okay. Outside of that, you don't need much other than think about it of the concept of, okay, when you go outside, it's minus 25. When you come back into wherever you are hiding from the zombies, it's probably going to be a lot warmer. And like your glasses, for those that wear glasses, you go outside, you come back in, they instantly fog over. They instantly get water condensed on them. In which case, if you keep it in your holster, it will stay colder longer. The condensation may not occur, but always be that person who, when it's time, when you can, take it out, check it for function, make sure it's dry. It's that simple. Don't make it any harder than that. And you'll be able to get through the next 10 years of your zombie apocalypse fantasy, even if zombies figure out how to live in minus 25 degree weather like we have here in parts of Canada. That's it for today. I'm going back outside to shovel more snow because, I like that white stuff. It's the reason why we don't have creepy, crawly, venomous, scaly, man-eating things. Have a good day, and let's hope it snows some more.